Yes, yes. Oh, my goodness. My headphones are as loud as the Dickens. It's the Tim McKernan Show podcast. My name's Tim McKernan. I'm joined by Little Jackie Papers, fresh off another appearance on the Spread Zone podcast.
Yeah, great to be there.
And that's usually me, Anthony Stalter, and Riz. And because I was supposed to be on vacation this week, I said to the boys, hey, Papers, this Little Jackie Papers, can fill in for me. And people wanted to hear who you had anyway, the Panthers or the Oilers. and then when the weather, and I mean the storms and the cold, ran through Denver, and my wife and I decided, let's not waste our time, money, vacation, freezing our balls, strap-ons, ovaries. Yeah, I think that's the right term.
Yeah.
Off. So we stayed back and called an audible on the vacation. I was around for the Spread Zone, and Jackson, after we got done with the NBA Finals, told the boys, I'm just going to get up now when it came time for the Stanley Cup Finals. And I knew that was going to be your plan.
Yeah.
Riz and Stalter looked at you like you're crazy, and I kind of wouldn't have minded if we came back from a break and there was just an empty chair.
Right. Don't say anything about it. Don't even mention me again. Like I wasn't.
Didn't even happen.
Yeah, like a fever dream of some sort. Listen, I know your strengths. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at.
Well, I have to tell you, on that podcast, where is my strength going to be on that podcast? Answer the question.
In terms of this last one, the one we just recorded.
No. In general.
College football.
College football.
Yeah,
that's where I feel pretty good about what I'm going to be able to do. Unfortunately, I think. Oh yeah, I had Justin Thomas at the Masters MC, and Minwoo Lee at the PGA MC. Biscuit. So we got the U.S. Open next week. I mean, do I just go Scheffler or McElroy and just kind of?
I mean, with like Scheffler, it's tough to be like, oh no, bad play, But it also is the chalkiest.
See, I'm reeled in by giving the value.
And I think with golf, like daily fantasy is actually a better like if you're giving out value plays, like something like that is better than this person make a top 10, because it's like there's so many people in the field, and it's so volatile week by week, a couple bad holes and you're totally upended. So it's tough. Golf's tough. But if you can hit on a golfer with value for like a tournament like that, like the U.S. Open, oh my God, rolling in cash.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. That's the excitement. We welcome you to email into the podcast anytime you want by contacting me, T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com, TMCKERNAN at InsideSTL.com. Anything and everything is welcome. I've now upped it to $1,000. Send hate mail. Got to send it from your real account. Got to validate. And it has to upset me. And I realize that might be the final frontier.
Right.
Because you could say, well, I did it, and then you're not paying me. Got to upset me.
Right. And that right there, because I think a lot of people could just say some dumb shit that they might think would upset you, but that's just, again, dumb shit. But to really find it, it's hard, but that's why the prize is so,
$1,000 is right to your Venmo.
Yeah, the reward, the dead or alive.
And I posted on the TMA fan page on Facebook where Jackson experienced love yesterday, which then got the question. So a gentleman posted on the TMA fan page on Facebook, which you can join, and I believe there are 900 people in the queue to join. I mean, this is like a waiting list at Oakmont.
Yeah.
Let me see how many people are. There's 7,196 members.
I'm going to guess 342 are in the queue.
I don't know where it says. If you know where you can find that, shows what I know.
Figure that.
Hell, I don't know.
We're the two moderators of the place.
Speaks volumes. But somebody was ripping you. I don't know. It was like 90% of what Jackson does is terrible all the time, or something like that. And then you received a bunch of support. So when I posted on the TMA fan page on Facebook that we were going to be doing this podcast, a gentleman wrote the following: since there was an entire post about it on this hell site, could you just comment of how much Jackson brings to the show? And also, if Hubbard would ever consider him letting him do an NBA podcast. Well, with regard to the second question, I can't speak on behalf of Hubbard. with regard to what Jackson brings to the show. I'll say it. I know I said it at the outset of when we got to Hubbard, which was January 2022, that if you would not have been on the show, I don't know if I would have felt good about making the move. So that speaks to an appreciation of what you bring to the show, even when you were basically, because we made that decision to leave in October, November 2021, I guess, yeah. And you hadn't been on the show for a year at that point. Right. Because I knew that we were going to be on HD2. I knew a lot of the production would fall on your shoulders. At the time, it was just going to be me, you, Doug, and Iggy. And the plan was for it to be the Cat and the Plowhawk eventually, once Hubbard saw that the advertising revenue was there, because they didn't know if it would be there or not. I was pretty confident it would be, but I understand that, right or wrong, I guess it's wrong, but other shows can get hit with the blame when shows will say, oh, we've got all this in advertising dollars, and then the show actually gets over to a place and it doesn't have near the advertising dollars that it does. So Hubbard had to treat that with justified skepticism. Then the money was there, but then I put in some money to get the Plowhawk over. The Cat decided to do KFNS because it was a guarantee, whereas Hubbard was kind of betting on it. He'd be betting on it. And so then we had the Plowhawk. But initially I was thinking, as far as production goes, you're going to be the only guy doing it. That's going to be a lot. Now that is 2022. Then we do Balloon Party. Within about 2 weeks, I go into Jackson's little studio, which is on the other side of the Pissa from where we are right here. And I said, oh my God, I didn't want to do this show when it was brought up to me in the first place. And now I'm doing it. Now I'm stuck. Because inevitably, if I quit now, that's going to piss them off. Totally understood, by the way. If I quit, inevitably, just like whenever I decide to stop doing this, people will say I got fired. So you got that going. And I'm in a no-win situation, and fuck me for agreeing to do something that I didn't really want to do in the first place. And then you, little Jackie Papers, you would come up with these questions every once in a while. I said, that's it. You know how to get my mind going. Come up with the questions. And you still do that to an extent on TMA. Yeah. Today's question, of course, being what would you be more afraid of?
Yeah, aliens, ghosts,
demons.
Bigfoot. Yeah, and demons, yeah.
So that to me is what got Balloon Party going, and I don't know why you would. I guess if you're a blues fan and you kind of don't get the joke, for lack of a better term,
yeah,
then I can see not liking.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Some people just don't like younger generation kind of stuff.
Some people just don't like somebody who's in their 20s. They just don't like that.
Yeah, especially So on this topic, I think this show, TMA, or really probably any time you're in the public sphere, public-facing sphere a little bit, albeit a small percent.
So interesting not to say public eye and instead public sphere and then public-facing.
Public eye is a way better term. Thank you, Tim. Being the public eye, it's made me very much more comfortable with people just being like, yeah, I don't like you. I used to be I used to
elaborate on this. Go ahead. You're doing some psychoanalysis, and color me intrigued. This is more my thing, so I'm anxious to watch you do it.
I used to really, and subconsciously, I don't think I was thinking, but I used to need to be liked. I had
even on this show.
No, well, probably when I first started.
Even though Gangster Pete gave you the counsel. What was the counsel again?
You shouldn't care about the opinions of people who don't know you personally. And I still use that to this day. But I used to need validation in a way. I can remember a specific instance where I was being interviewed for an internship my senior year at college. I won't name the organization.
Enterprise.
But it was this whole weekend kind of retreat thing with 100 different people and 50 jobs. So it was a really good practice. I didn't end up getting the gig, but it was really good practice. And I remember giving this public speaking, which is one of my strong suits, is public speaking. Oh, you're a good
public speaker.
Yeah, good public speaker. Always have been a good public. Never was afraid to get.
Rarely do you hear people say that.
Yeah, just was never. And I attribute to this is another diatribe, but I think in a weird way, you know how St. Louis has the tradition of you have to tell a joke on Halloween to get the candy. You knock, knock, and you tell a joke.
And then you're saying that doesn't happen in the places you would prefer to live.
It is a Midwest, I think, but mainly St. Louis thing. And I really do think that actually gets kids comfortable with like public speaking in a way and being confident.
So you're
in the way you
saying
speak.
we have great orators coming from St. Louis because of our Halloween traditions?
I do think that like
That's a take. I'd like that to be a segment tomorrow on clearing the deck on TMA.
No problem. Yeah, I think that
Please do.
I will put it in the
Doug and
dossier.
Martin, there's no chance in hell they watch this or listen to this.
No,
so they will be absolutely blindsided by it. This is going to be wonderful.
Yeah, telling a
And
joke.
I'm going to be in the corner giggling like I'm riding the Sibian again. Hi ho Silver, I'm on the Sibian. That's the title of this podcast.
Hi ho Silver, I'm on the Sibian. I wish we could get you doing the lasso in the podcast art. I'll get more into that tomorrow on TMA. Tune in. But I do think that's like one of my stronger suits. I remember I gave I thought it was a real good speech, and then after it was like a small group of 8 of us, and the person running this little small group of 8 like gave feedback on everybody's but mine. There was no feedback, not positive, not negative.
Now I'm intrigued by your storytelling here. Where is this going? I'm thinking
not negative, not positive. I just didn't get anything. And I remember afterwards going up to the person and saying like, "Well, I noticed you gave feedback to everybody, but not mine." He goes, "Oh, I didn't even think about it. Yeah, yours is pretty good." And I just remember being like that, like crushed me. And I was like, "Oh, like really nothing?" Like no. He's like,
"Well, who's this slap dick?"
Well, I think in a way. And then the next day, I had one of my like 8 interviews I had to do for this week, and this was a nonsense. It was right before COVID too. It was Mardi Gras weekend in St. Louis, so I missed that, and then the world shut down. That kind of sucked.
Yeah, bad dude.
But the next interview, they asked me, "Do you think that you need validation or confirmation that you're doing good in your general work life?" And I was like, so clearly the person who ran that little small group where I was giving feedback told the interviewer, like, this guy probably needs validation.
Wow.
And I'd never
a hell of a little anecdote.
And I had never thought about that before. And I remember being really embarrassed in that moment. But then I like took inventory about myself. I'm like that, like me going up to that person is almost like a test in a way. Like we're just not, this guy knows he did good on this speech. Being in that room, like I know I did well on it. But I still needed that external validation. And hearing that like in a professional setting like that, where they didn't tell me like you think you need that, but they asked me that question, and I like had to take a second and be like, yeah, I think maybe a little bit, and that's probably something I need to work on. But that like was a huge moment for me where like I felt like I needed validation on something that I know I'm doing well at, you know? And I think being on TMA, being in the public eye, has like also helped me. Like you do not need external validation. If you think you're doing the right thing, if your bosses think you're doing the right thing, if you in the room think you know you're doing the right thing, you don't need external validation. You never need. And then also that helps with not being fazed by someone thinking you're doing a bad job. Because if you hinge on the fact that someone needs to tell you you're doing a good job, being told you're doing a bad job would crush you.
I agree.
And so I'm trying to find that middle ground where external good validation, negative validation, it doesn't affect me if I think I'm doing the right thing.
Oh, this is wonderful. Tip of the cap. Game ball for you. I don't even know if I want to. This is maybe the episode now is Jackson's game ball instead of hi ho Silver. I'm on my Sibian.
That's really good though. I don't want to lose that.
We can save that for next week. Doesn't matter if it's got anything to do with it. But I believe I've told you this. I definitely have. I feel like anyway. Said it to Chairman Kurt. If you live by the public approval of TMA, because what happens, whoever is new.
Yeah.
They're going to get the love.
The bump.
But then, because I've seen it happen over 20 years so many times, then once they're around long enough, then they get taken down.
Right.
So you can't buy into the beginning because the beginning is just the newness. It's like when you have a new girlfriend. Might not even be that great looking, but let me tell you something. You know what you're going to be doing? Banging like little jackrabbits. That's what you're going to be doing. Banging like little jack. And it's all about the newness. And you can't be believing that you're in love or there's some kind of chemistry that can last forever because it's the newness factor.
Right.
And then at the same time, when now you're lying next to each other and you decided I'm going to roll over so I can beat off, that also isn't a commentary on the relationship. You've lost the newness. Right. So if you're buying in that all of this sex means the relationship is great, then you're going to tie in that the lack of sex means the relationship isn't great. And I'm just telling you this, Papers, it's biochemistry, brother.
Yeah, man.
That's the deal.
Right.
All right? So that's why at the outset, don't pay attention to it. Because guess what? They're going to love you. That doesn't mean that we don't love you. It's just part of the deal. And then as time goes on, then the great news is when you leave the show, then you become eternal and all powerful.
Yes, absolutely. You become canonized. Yeah,
you're canonized.
100%. And it's all about like building a sustainable mindset. Never getting too high, never getting too low. Not needing validation or praise and not being crushed by criticism or people just being like, I don't like you. Like that's gonna Doug. I remember Doug in his infinite wisdom.
Doug Von Nirvana is what it's called.
He said, like, he made a great point to me once. He was like, if you're in a talk show or like something like this where you're giving opinions often and people just like universally like you, that probably means you're not saying anything.
Now that's interesting coming from Doug Vaughn because he's exactly right, but it's coming from Doug. So I'm at, I've told the story of the lady who, she didn't come up to me, but my compadre, Matt Poling, who you know, and you would describe him as a...
delight.
An absolute delight.
I like Poling a lot.
Well, how can you not like Poling?
Yeah.
For those not familiar with him, and I would imagine that's a healthy percentage of those listening or who might be watching live right now, he handles corporate sponsorships for the Doggies. And as Martin always says, Energizer, being the sponsor of City Park, is a polling vehicle. He did that deal. So anyway, Poling was my roommate in college. We were both Sigma Chi's of Missouri. I've known him forever. Good friend of mine. And we're up at our kids' school picnic this past Friday and enjoying some libations.
Sure.
And he goes, I've got to introduce you to this lady. And I go, all right, sounds good to me. What the fuck do I care? I'm just having some libations. It's 80 degrees. What else could I ask for?
Sure.
And he goes, no, but she like hates you. And I go, then I got to meet her, you know? And then his wife, who is, you think Matt's a delight, his wife, like, just wonderful person.
Sure.
She goes, don't you guys start with your stuff, because she... And she goes, what are you going to try to like get her to like you? I go, not at all. I said but I said, I like when somebody will tell me using their real name or what they don't enjoy, because I rarely get the opportunity to have not like I'm trying to change their mind, but to have somebody won't, as you called it, public facing sphere. Is that what you said?
Not my brightest moment.
Somebody to actually say, even via email, much less in person, why they don't like me or the show. So this is a great opportunity. And so the person standing in front of me must have been super tall because she couldn't have seen me. And Poling goes up to her and says, hey, I'd like to introduce you to one of my friends. And there I am. She goes, oh, my God.
Wow.
But not like a...
Right.
She goes, now, I just want you to know, it's not that I hate, and I go, no, it's fine. I said, let's have this conversation, because I can't tell you how much I appreciate you saying to my face that you don't like, because I don't take it, and it's part of the deal.
Right.
So Poling's wife's like, you really don't care that she doesn't like you. And I go, maybe it's a sad commentary on what we do, and it's not to say you go out of your way to have people not like you, but it is kind of the business that it's good for business if you have a healthy percentage of the audience not like you. But I think if you go out of your way to have people not like you, then it becomes transparent.
Yeah.
So you need to authentically irritate people, and you will be better off. Yeah.
It's a special skill.
You don't have that, though.
Yeah, probably not. I think
you're doing, but your authenticity is the blues thing.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's the thing. And it's unapologetic, and it's great. It's so great. I do think that people really like respect, like the kind of the TMA-ish audience,
right,
for lack of a term, the people that get the joke,
right,
appreciate it. Like they might be like, what the fuck?
Right.
But there isn't this, you're on the blues station, you should know about the blues, which is such a, like, it's like an olds attitude to me. Right. This like a dogmatic that you can't make somebody like something.
Right.
You can't make somebody understand it. You could counter. I'd love for you to do it, actually. Well, this is a sports station, and we're not going to talk about the second most popular league in the United States.
Right.
And how come nobody else on the station can break down, take your pick of, is it the Dorcher Chamber?
Yeah, the Dorcher Chamber.
On Oklahoma City?
Yeah.
Why is it that we're only supposed to talk about the Blues and Cardinals?
Their horizons are much wider than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all like...
And I would tell you this, by the way, this is a different diatribe. St. Louis has launched, I mean, for real, as far as like pound for pound, broadcasters that have gone national. I mean, obviously, I know Costas is not from here, but his first wife was, and therefore he resided here, and he got his start at KMOX. And obviously the Buck family, Harry Carabina to you, was Webster Groves. But I don't know if in 2025, if it is as likely for a native I think the proper pronunciation is St. Louisan.
Yes.
St. Louisan to get a national, not play-by-play gig, but like a talk gig. And I don't know how many of those will be around anyway going forward. There will be a handful of them, and some people make a lot of money. But the point being, going into one of those, because what we talk about here is NHL and MLB, but if you were to go to ESPN or you were to go to Fox Sports, what are they talking about when you watch their daily shows? Yeah. And they're not spending any time on Major League Baseball or the NHL, or if they are spending time on it, it's certainly not the lead, unless like Shohei Ohtani blew out his knee, or Connor McDavid blew out his knee.
Right. Yeah.
Or the Rangers were in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Some sort of like Ohtani, Aaron
Yankees,
Judge,
right? You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
so the dynamic has changed a little bit there. But I also realize, saying that, if I were to say that on 101 with like a 101 older school audience, that would irritate, because it's kind of, I would call it just self-awareness of the economics of the business. Mm-hmm. Others would say you're hating on St. Louis. It's absolutely not hating on St. Louis. This is what is popular around the country, and those two sports are not presently in St. Louis. Yeah. But the dogma that leads to the attack of you is, you're on the Blue station, therefore you should know hockey.
Right.
But if you wanted to counter, you go, well, we're on a sports station. How come everybody doesn't know about the NBA Finals?
Right.
I'm not telling you what to argue, but I'm just telling you can argue it.
And I love doing it. I also like, when I listen to sport, like I love when you can tell someone is like passionate about whatever sport. So
like Orlovsky and Stephen A. Smith and
a less performative passion. Like when you nerd out on baseball playoffs especially, like pitching change stuff, all that stuff.
Can't get enough of it.
I love listening to you about that, because I know how much that like means to you, and how interested you are in that. And I think that comes across. I can name 100 different sportscasters in different little sports or aspects of sports that they're passionate about, and I love listening to on it. But like the idea of like someone being able to like be an expert and passionate about every single sport and all these different scenarios is just impossible. Specialized niche, I think, is often better than comprehensive.
So along those lines, the podcast that I recommend big time, and by the way, I'd like to recommend another one, Pillow Talk. Big fan. Yeah, probably better on YouTube. Right. Then there's Holly Randall's podcast, but Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve.
Yeah.
Now there's two guys who would be the first ones to say they don't really know shit about hockey, but they love the Stanley Cup playoffs. Mm-hmm. But then I can tell they do, and I think it's probably from gambling, and I'm not talking about like these guys are degenerate gamblers. They might just do it to make sure that they follow it. Mm-hmm. When it gets down to it, I really have zero interest at this moment in watching Oklahoma City and Indiana.
Right.
I just don't. I'm more interested in watching Edmonton and Florida, but I probably am not all that interested in either one, really. Part of the Edmonton, Florida thing is I'm still not over the Blues and Jets. Mm-hmm. So that's that. And then the other one, I'm just like, now if it becomes a hell of a series or something goes on, I'm in. But if I throw a little taste on it, now all of a sudden I got a reason to take a peek, even if it's like a $25 taste.
Right.
But then they can sit there and they break it down, but they do it with some kind of personality. I mean, I'm going back a quarter century, but kind of the way that Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser would talk about sports on Pardon the Interruption.
Right.
So it's kind of personality, ball busting.
Yeah, it's not trying to feign expertise.
Right, and I would imagine most people can see through that. Certainly athletes can. That's where you get into the athletes going, oh, is that right?
Right.
Like, oh, okay.
Right, but if you cover
it's kind of like going, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like Stanford Steve and Scott Van Pelt, who are like actual friends.
Yes.
Love to throw a little wager on a game. Obviously, their Bad Beat segment is super popular. But like, yeah, they're just friends watching sports. And like, at the end of the day, like, that's probably most sports fans. Like, yeah, I like hanging out with my friends, watching a little ball. Certain sports I can talk pretty in depth about. Other ones I'm just kind of a surface level fan. And when someone's covering it in that way, I think it resonates more. For me, at least. There's some, shit. You just mentioned Orlovsky and Stephen A. Smith. They pull in a lot of dollars, meaning there's probably a lot of eyeballs. So there's a market for the other side. It's just not for me personally.
Let's see. We got an active YouTube chat here, youtube.com/TMASTL. Don't be Jackson. it wasn't about validation. It was about feedback, good or bad.
I think he's talking about when I went down to that internship thing.
Ah, yeah. I was figuring like,
I
what's
thought
my
so, too.
context on that?
There might need to be a comma after B because it'd be like, don't be Jackson. No, I see it. It wasn't about like feedback. I knew I did a good job. Like that's the thing I went there with the sole purpose, asking the guy for feedback I wanted him to say you did a great job.
It's interesting. Along those lines, and this is more sound story related. Got a lot of sound story stuff going on here as of late. I guess it's a weird deal, but I think, I truly regret all the time I spent playing poker. Mm-hmm. Big time. Firmly believe it's the reason I got divorced. I mean, I got to take accountability myself, but I'm saying the fact that I didn't have the discipline to go, I probably shouldn't play for 12 hours a day and maybe should save money and, pay attention to my wife and friends. So that's on me. But if there's one thing that I got out of it, it is to focus on the process and not the result. Mm-hmm. But I also know that is probably not the way the majority of humans think. And I'm not saying it's right. I think it's benefited me. So along those lines with regard to business decisions or business moves, or that if you knew that you did the right thing, but it still didn't work out, there is some peace that comes with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't matter. There's no need to play out a poker hand. But the last time I played in the main event, I got knocked out on day 3, and I had a set of 9s, and old David the Dragon Pham had a set of queens. I mean, there's just, there's virtually no way I'm laying that down. And okay, that's the way that it goes. You can sit there and get mad about it. In golf, if you shoot lower than whatever your expected bell curve number would be based on your handicap index, and you still lose a match, I mean, what are you going to,
right?
You know what I mean? So there's peace that comes with that. So along your lines, if you know that you performed,
that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I think the weird thing is I wanted to go to this. I think if anything, it's kind of like the Joe Buck 2006 World Series call. I don't know if you've ever heard him talk about this, that he hates that call because he was so conscious of the pushback he felt like he'd get if he was loud with the call, because he's a St. Louisan and was a former Cardinal broadcaster, that he downplayed the World Series call when Wainwright struck out Brandon Edge. I think I might have overcorrected on not talking about when there's golf stories that are beyond, like, let's break down what happened at the Byron Nelson. Right. And Rory McIlroy this morning did a press conference. Have you seen this? Probably not, because we've gone right from TMA to Spread Zone into here. And I just doing a commercial break. While I'm pissing, great aim, holding my phone, looking at TikTok. If anybody wants to come in, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
And he did a press conference this morning, and it's his first press conference since the PGA, where the talk was that his driver was.
Yeah.
I wish we could play it on the podcast.
Illegal?
Yes.
Yeah.
He goes. And then he didn't talk to the media despite multiple requests. That became a thing. And I remember saying, I really wonder what was going on there. But in fairness, we haven't heard his side of the story yet. And I say that, I also think I'm projecting. Mm-hmm. I really do think that is me.
Personal experience.
Yes, 100%.
Right.
So I'm like, I got to give. So then he sits down and he does his press conference in advance of, it's the Canadian Open this week, which he's won. And he goes, and I'm paraphrasing here. He goes, my driver was deemed to be illegal, but I also knew that Scotty's was too. But it wasn't my place to air that. It's supposed to be confidential. Why a report came out that mine was and not his, he goes, I don't know. And then Scotty's winning the tournament. And so if I say something, then I'm, airing out Scotty, and that's not right. I also didn't want to do a press conference because I was irritated that something that was supposed to be confidential was made public, and also not everybody else's driver who got dinged was made public. And then I would say something that I might regret because I was pissed off. So I'm watching, I'm going, God, I completely understand exactly what he's saying. Now, we already know the answer to this, will the attention of his answer get the same light of the criticism of him not doing a press conference or that his driver was illegal, which essentially was kind of saying, and he was using that same driver at the Masters trying to color his Master victory the wrong way. So I don't, and this kind of goes into the TMA stuff, I don't get irritated, or as irritated perhaps, when I read things about one of us or the show or myself when I can't fault the public for not knowing that the things that they read oftentimes aren't true, or that there is an actual agenda. Because if you've never been on this side of it, then why would you know that this goes on? Not to say that everything has an agenda, but that plenty of the things that you might think are not accurate. But it's one of those things that once you have that happen, you then go, well, I need to hear his side of it, or I need to hear her side of it. And so once I hear, I'm like, God, it makes all the sense in the world. Because Scotty Scheffler acknowledged, yeah, my driver got pulled too. Because it kind of happens a good amount.
Right. It sounds a lot worse than it actually
because it was the first time, and it was like this Sirius XM report, and it was made to, and it did become a big thing because most people didn't even know they did that testing. And then Rory McIlroy has become this polarizing guy, and so then it adds into it, probably going back to the live stuff, I would guess.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but politically, it strikes me that conservatives oftentimes are pro-live and liberals are anti-live. I'm not sure how that wound up happening. I think there might be some Donald Trump connotation.
Yeah.
I think. Am I right on this?
So I think
crowdsourcing?
Possibly it comes down to, and I might be a little off on some of the details, the PGA Championship was originally supposed to be at a Trump course. Now, of course, the PGA Championship is run by the PGA of America, which is different than the PGA Tour, but it then went to Southern Hills in 2022, whereas Live does play at Trump courses. Bedminster, I think. Okay,
then if it's that, but that's what I noticed with this. Yeah. I don't, and I'm just kind of like, why is this like? But whatever, it's what goes on. And then Rory was anti-live, and so then I noticed people who oftentimes really like Donald Trump really don't like Rory McIlroy, and then vice versa. People who really don't like Donald Trump like Rory McIlroy. I'm going, what the fuck? What is it? What is this? Guy's from Northern Ireland.
Right.
I'm the one who has a problem. But so I'm like, I just want to hear what the guy has to say. And then I'm watching, I'm going, makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, totally.
Makes all the sense in the world. And I get it. And then the projecting thing would be, kind of falling on the sword because you don't want to air out stuff that involves other people that they probably wouldn't want out there. And so then you kind of catch the shit, you know?
Right. He had like three options, really. Go out there and like, say like, yeah, this happened. It happens often. Don't mention any other golfers.
Right.
And now you are the sole person who had the illegal driver. You tell the truth and say a bunch of these other people, had also illegal drivers. And now it's not only Scotty Scheffler's getting dragged into it, but now Rory, Nike teammate, is like, oh, Rory McIlroy airs out Scotty Scheffler. I can see the headlines now. Like, throws him under the bus.
It's a tailor-made thing.
Yeah, tailor-made. Yeah, and then the third option being don't talk and deal with the shit that you've already dealt with before about not talking.
It's a brutal spot. Yeah. But if you prioritize the confidentiality and another, person who, I don't know. I don't know how to handle that. And Scotty Scheffler could have gone, yeah, I got dinged too, but then now he's got to deal with it, and he's trying to win a golf tournament. Rory was never really in the mix. I think he had to backdoor his way into even making the cut on the weekend. So, yeah, it's a motherfucker of a spot. So I hope, of course, this gets much attention as the driver getting pulled, but I already know how the process will play out. This podcast welcomes your emails anytime. T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com, TMCKERNAN at InsideSTL.com. It is presented to you by James Carlton of the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, online at carltoninsurance.net. James has been my insurance agent since 2019. I think the world of James Carlton, and I recommend him wholeheartedly to our audience. 314-961-4800 or go online at carltoninsurance.net. Also brought to you by Mark Hanna of Evergreen Wealth Strategies. I saw Mark Hanna, as did you. I guess we were together out at the Dotem this past week. Wonderful to see him. He is online at evergreenstl.com, or you can call 314-889-0503. That's Mark Hanna, Evergreen Wealth Strategies, and Seth Goldcamp and Design Air Heating and Cooling, online at designairservice.com. Jackson and Doug and I were talking about this in a commercial break today. I'd be curious, and I know most people probably wouldn't know on years, but I really don't know if we've had worse weather in the first half of a year in St. Louis this quarter century.
It's been as bad as I can remember. I mean, it was freezing
We had frozen tundra in January. We had record-breaking rainfall in the month of April. We've had wind and rain in much of May, and now we're carrying that over into June.
Yeah, there's only been like a handful of days where you had, like, you faded the rain, faded heavy winds, and had warm enough temperatures to be like truly comfortable in a short sleeve and t-shirts.
Or sundress.
Or sundress, yeah, male or female.
Thank you. Yeah, because we don't kink shame.
No, we do not. There's only just been a handful. Like, oh, it's going to be 78 degrees and sunny today. 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts, or 75 and no wind, but it's going to pour down right in the afternoon. Like, we just can't get. And then the winter. I mean, most of January and February was like the ground was just frozen.
Frozen tundra.
Yeah.
So then that led to issues with, the growth of grass and mud, and of course, eventually flooding.
Right.
It's been
the tornado 2 weeks ago, which devastated.
Which is the king of it all on May 16th. Right. So I mean, this has been something else. But we also observed this might have had the best weather ever in 2024.
Truly, I mean, I can only think of one true snowstorm, and then the awesome mild summer, great fall. God, I love fall in St. Louis, man. That's the best weather we have.
If I could find the ability to be present in the fall as opposed to going, oh, fuck, here comes sitting inside for the next few months, then I would love it because the weather is phenomenal. And college football titillates me.
I think I might get you an Oculus for the winter.
Can you tell me what an Oculus is?
It's like the glasses, the full headset you wear for VR. For like virtual reality. It's like a virtual reality headset, and I hear the Stag is great on that.
Nah.
It's too real.
I have never,
Sure.
I mean, what a moment that would be for my wife to walk in and I'm sitting there pleasuring myself with a VR device on, or Oculus is apparently you're going to gift me. But my understanding is there was a thought that it was going to be wonderful, and kind of like, what was it, the Apple goggles or whatever those things that became a debacle. I was just reading an article this week about how people that bought them, they just are sitting there like they're Peloton now in the room.
Yeah, there's a bubble, and the VR bubble might have popped. But I want to see what it looks like, and you just plop yourself in Florida on the VR, and then you just it's
not bad. In
the moments you're not on the show, you're just right in that box.
It doesn't take me away from just like them.
Yeah.
It just So it's like I'm like, oh, it's already June 4th.
Oh, jeez, come on, June 4th.
All right, there's all kinds of activity in this Michelob, and I didn't even use my. Have you gone tweeting this?
Oh yeah, it's the TMA tweet is out there, so it's
all right.
Ready for
let me
a GIF.
see. I'll set you up, which will allow me to go gifting. I'll read some Michelob Ultra YouTube chat, fun and games here. What a way to bring sunshine to this rainy day. That's from MD 2020. Wow, I love that STL cap, Tim. That's from Sideways, the golf movie. I remember wearing this on Balloon Party, and for whatever reason, it really... Do you remember that episode?
Oh, yeah.
It really bothered some of the...
Right, yeah. Well,
why?
Isn't it a U-high hat, right?
It is, but I mean...
Right, it's not...
I don't think any of them crossed too many times paths.
No, they might have played them.
I don't think you're the problem. It is a St. Louis University High School Navy.
Yeah.
St. Louis.
I can't remember why people didn't like it. They just had a problem.
I think it's because it was on my head. I think that might have been the core issue.
You also have a lighter blue one, too.
That is St. Louis University's.
Right.
Fun facts for no and tell.
It's the SLU built, not U-High guy. Yeah.
That's right. Let's see. What have I missed, Stag asks. You come after Jackson on the fan page, you're going to find out. What if the person would have written, replace you with my name, or replace you with Martin's name? Would the response have been the same? Thoughts?
I don't know. It's tough to say. I think yes. I think maybe not to the extent, but yeah, I think no matter what, you would get defended.
I'm right now just observing your baseline behavior because we both know you're lying.
Oh,
I'm trying to. So you're fiddling with your what are you fiddling with?
The other earbud that doesn't work anymore.
Oh, so you're only.
I'm a 1 year
mono.
It's actually really bad because I will notice my right ear I have some hearing pain.
Oh no!
Because I only listen. I also have a working theory that everyone in radio's hearing is cooked. Because
oh God, I've noticed that recently.
I think almost because you wear headphones. I mean, for us, 4 hours a day. God. Time multiply that by weeks, multiply that by years.
my wife assumes that I'm being a dick when I said, I can't hear you. We went to, I said this on TMA this morning, because, as I said at the outset of the podcast, we were supposed to be out of town this week, going to Red Rocks. And my wife's like, she was really down, but she was the one who pointed out that the weather was going to be brutal out there. So fucking weird. Temperatures in the 40s and 50s. And then for those who, have you been to Red Rocks? I feel like we talked about it.
Been to Denver, but never Red Rocks.
Okay. I mean, it truly is. It's a phenomenon as far as a concert venue goes, and that's why the acoustics are so good, because it's just like carved out.
It's like a natural amphitheater.
It's a natural amphitheater, and it is something else. With the benefit of hindsight, knowing that the outdoor element is so important, what I would like to do is I should have had a backup vacation in case this. But I mean, it's June.
But it's June. That's what I'm saying. The month is June.
But I've been to Denver when the Blues played the Avalanche in the Western Conference Finals. That would have been right around this time when the series was wrapping up, and it was insane. And how far out that airport is, I can't remember. I was on the Blues bus, and we were either driving to the airport, and it was hotter than hell. No, I think we landed, and it was hot.
Yeah.
And by the time we got to downtown Denver, it was snowing,
Jesus
like a blizzard.
Christ.
I remember looking out my hotel room, and I'm like an hour ago, it was hot when we walked from the plane to the bus, and now it's like a blizzard.
Oof.
So I knew that it could happen. It's very odd. Doug talked about it as well. Anyway, so then we didn't go. And you guys, I asked you off air. You said you wouldn't have gone either. I kind of thought everybody would go.
No.
My wife was surprised you guys agreed with it.
To go outside, and it probably feels colder than whatever
at
it would
night.
be. Yeah,
and you're in the fucking mountains.
Yeah, and like Denver, Colorado in the summer is great because it's like 70, 65, 70.
Yeah, when it's right. And that's what we had last year. So we'll do this again.
To go on vacation 40, that's no good.
And I had to eat the Airbnb. That hurt.
That's not great.
That was painful, and that wasn't like that was
right.
That hit. But I got the money back on the flight.
Sure.
And I'm at peace with it. But anyway, her parents were going to watch our sons while we were gone, and they were like, "Hey, go out and enjoy, get to dinner. They can spend the night tonight. You guys have some time together. God bless, wonderful people." So she goes, "Where would you like to go to dinner tonight?" And I go, and I listed some places. She goes, "I'm kind of feeling sushi or sashimi." And as it turns out, you hate dogs and fish. Is that the deal?
I don't really like to eat fish. I like shellfish. And I prefer not to be in the general vicinity of a dog.
Okay. So, and that's a popular stance too on 101.
The fish thing's probably it's okay. The dog thing, people like truly despise that.
Yeah, I think they might despise that more than the blues
Yes,
thing.
I would agree.
So Indo is the place that we chose to go. It's in the Tower Grove neighborhood of St. Louis, off of McCree.
Same people on Sado, right?
Aye. And have a wonderful feast. And we're trying to put ourselves into a position of, okay, we're still able to enjoy ourselves even though we had to nix the vacation. And it's, I mean, we go so damn early because I go to bed so damn early that there are two other tables, and plus it's a fucking Tuesday. And
the first day they're open of the week.
Yeah. And it's just the two of us. And she's saying something, and I'm just like, I know she's not going to believe it if I say I couldn't hear you, but I can't hear you. So I just did the nod.
Yeah, it's always it's a dangerous play.
Oh my God! Like, what if she would have said, "I'm thinking about wearing a strap tonight," and I'm just going, "All right."
Yeah.
Well, I'm enjoying my delicious sashimi.
Yeah, hopefully that wouldn't be a binding contract, that affirmation there. But I think I have a working theory that everyone in radio's hearing is slowly but surely getting cooked. I remember when we'd walk in to do Balloon Party, Rocky would be on the board before me, and the knob on the volume of his was cranked up to him. I put my headphones on my head, and I thought that my ears were going to start bleeding. And I was like, "Rock, is this how loud you listen to it?" He's like, "Yeah, it's about my volume." I was like, those ears are gone."
It just started happening, and I felt terrible at that same school picnic. Not when the lady was telling me how much she didn't like me or the show, although it became clear she kind of liked the show. She just wished we talked sports more. That was where she really doesn't like Pestis. But people are talking to me. I'm like, this is a motherfucker. I can't hear.
Yeah, it's tough. I've had moments like that too.
You're 21 years younger than me. Imagine where you're going to be here.
I know. Like, then that's the thing is, like, when I listen to...
You won't be doing this 21 years. We both know that. Yeah.
When I listen to, like, podcasts or music, I try to only use my left earbud to, like, it's like rotating your tires. so I can be okay.
But yet you're using your right earbud now. Tell me why.
It's the only one that works, and these are like the headphones that are like shaped for the correct ear, so I can't put this one on my left. It'll fall out.
How is a fine American like Stag not on the fan page? I mean, it's a bunch of guys posting meat and dog threads and one old drunk guy posting grainy Grateful Dead videos. That's from Sideways, the golf movie.
That's right. Stag is, I'm sure Stag is in there. I doubt Stag is the name. If that is the name, that's why you're not on the fan page. You're just
Stag is saying that he's not on the fan page. Yeah, the thing with the fan page, as far as how many people, did you find out how many people
470.
470 people are awaiting approval.
That's right.
And they might be waiting a long time. I don't know what the proper solution for it is. There are people who are in our, would you say, public-facing sphere?
Our space.
Who would really like us to delete the fan page.
Yeah.
Although I don't think you can delete these things. I think you can archive them.
Yeah, I think you could probably like transfer ownership. But God.
And that usually that's a 7-figure transaction.
You could do like
when you think about the value.
I was thinking of like a Hunger Games style fight to the death and last man standing gets the fan page.
And then at the same time, I don't know what it was. It was like, probably at this point now, might have been the end of 2024, but I think it might have been early 2025. Either way, a few months ago, somebody, I don't even remember what it was. Fuck, I'll go ahead and say it. Like posted a screenshot of some girl's dating profile and like made fun of her.
That was fucked.
Oh, so you knew.
I remember.
Probably because there were like admin notices. I have no idea. And then she reached out to me and it was like, oh, she might, she was very kind. I want to be clear.
Yeah. But
it's like, she's kind of like, now I'm exposed on something that has zero upside, but I've got nothing but downside. There isn't, and then if I can imagine calling my attorney going, hey, I got a situation. He go, well, why do you keep the thing? And I don't know. And I go, well, look at what the downside is. Why would you ever, you got to be, a little bit better than this. And that's the thing. It's like, so like in the moment, I know this. I don't know what to do, though.
Right.
What do I do? Tell me.
I wonder what... I think there is a way they just pull the plug. I have seen that, but there's not. That's like there's no upside.
Yeah, that turns into take your pick of whatever.
I think maybe
Brendan Marks, who used to run InsideSTL.com, just deleted the message board one day. Didn't even tell me. He just was like, it's such a waste. There's only like 50 people on there, talking to each other, and all they do is shit on the show and whatever. And I'm like, oh, but they like it, and we had to use, I can't remember these different types of websites. It's code, and I obviously don't know a thing about it. But we had to, this is so botched, and I know it when I'm saying, somehow use vBulletin, which was the message board's format, with whatever the website was, and they really didn't work.
Mesh, it wasn't integrated correctly.
Yes, exactly. And so he's just like, fuck it, I'm just getting rid of it.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know he had gotten rid of it. And then like a month and a half later, somebody like sends me like this vitriol in an email about getting rid of the message board. And I'm like, the fuck's this guy talking about? I did everything I could to keep the damn thing up.
Right.
And I went and Brent, I go, hey, look at this. And he goes, oh, I got rid of that a couple months ago. I can picture where we were. We were on Hampton. And I'm like, oh, okay, son of a bitch. But it became like a conspiracy theory as to why I got rid of the message board, when it turns out I didn't even know that I'd gotten rid of the message board.
Yeah.
It is, and this speaks to what I see Stag wrote here. Where is it? I've lost it. I was getting ready to say it. TMA audience loves to bitch about Jackson not knowing about the Blues, yet they complain about the amount of Blues coverage.
Yeah, it's a real catch-22, I would say. But most of the shit, like on me, is like it's in tongue-in-cheek. It's all part of. There's some that isn't, and again, never too high, never too low. No,
You're like repeating your mantras.
Yeah, it's true. Like, but that's like how you have to like, and also like I don't look at the text inbox all that much. Like I used to when we were in here. I do it all the time. But like I said, like if I know what I'm doing is good, then I'm good. If I don't, I don't.
I'm amused by Martin seeing this, and because it's not what he's experienced in his career.
Right.
He's always kind of been the above it guy, and hasn't had what for us is which day is it? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday?
Right.
It doesn't. It's just like it's the same thing every day. And for him, he's going. He'll ask in a break. He goes, "What's the deal with this guy?" And I go, "Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah, he got arrested for assault in Florida.
Yeah.
And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Boy, he's really angry." I go, "Well, that matches the assault charges.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, let's see. I want to peek into Jackson's sliding doors alternate reality when he did accept that job to sell cell phone or internet plans at Costco or whatever, except join TMA. Where would he be now? Ronnie's, that's from St. Charles.
It's a great question. Yeah, so for those who don't know, I graduated college in August of 2020.
Wow, that's just like dunking on me.
That's just the mist of the pandemic. I didn't feel like dunking in the months after because I probably applied to 100 different companies, sports teams.
Did you really?
Yeah, probably 5, 6 a day.
I need to send an email to me, and the next thing you know, you get a phone call within 5 minutes.
Somehow it worked. Well, actually, that was the more concerning thing about this company.
You felt like that was a bad tell.
Well, this company, yeah, I remember signing up for this, and they were talking about like these wages they were showing. It was like unbelievable, and yeah, I applied probably at like 11, and by 11:30, I got a call asking if I could come down for an interview at 1. I was like, boy, things are moving quick here. And I looked at some reviews. Luckily now with the internet and everything, like you can like really get a good picture of a place, or at least an idea of a place before you go in, so you're not blindsided. And everyone was like, yeah, this is a fucking scam. Like I wouldn't do this. Like you're going to be at Costco or Sam's Club or Walmart, and you're going to be asking people to switch their internet. And then I had a buddy, different company, but same idea, do this. And he was like, brother, this is feast or famine. He's like, I sell 1 or 2 of these things. I'm living high in the hog for the next month. If I don't sell shit, I don't have any money. It's totally commission based. And it's like, again, like you're at like a place where people are not going to switch their internet, trying to convince people to switch their internet.
God, it's brutal.
And it's like, and you know, if you make money, great. If you don't, doesn't matter. The people above you are making money no matter what. There's a ton of places like this. I probably would have never taken this. Like, again, I was living in my parents' house. It was fine. I was looking for a gig. But yeah, then I got the TMA job and all for naught. So there's not much of a sliding doors moment because I don't think I would have lasted long at that company.
You would have been gone after.
Well, yeah, after like 2 weeks I didn't sell anything and I got my paycheck and it was zero. I would have been like, yeah, I'm out.
To me, this isn't fair. In our world, which is of course limited. But in our world, if somebody wanted to work in our industry, I would send them to sales in a heartbeat.
Right.
It doesn't require a degree. It really requires work ethic, personality, and even if you don't have charisma, the conversation, from my standpoint, is not about your product, your show. It's about the client. What is the client looking to accomplish? What is the client's message? And is there a way that what we do can lead to return on investment for the client? Sitting on a sales call and talking about how great we are, fuck off.
Right.
You know, now, if the client or prospective client wants to ask about the show and or downloads or whatever else, be happy to do it. But it's like doing an interview almost. But I feel like where salespeople can get off track is focusing on talking about themselves and trying to sell,
right.
Which at this point, you're almost insulting the intelligence of the prospective client if all you do is talk about yourself because you're clearly selling, as opposed to, all right, well, here's how we can help you now that you've told me what it is that you do and what you're looking to accomplish and who your usual target demographic would be. This show or this station or this podcast is what's going to make sense based on what you're telling me. And it's something that I think anybody can do, and anybody, and for the most part in our industry, that's where the people making money are positioned, is in sales. Now, of course, there are exceptions, and when you're talking about super high dollars and some of the contracts that you'll hear about nationally or with podcasters, they're on air. But as far as if you're talking about a median, you're going to find the higher dollars in sales. And so it's unfortunate when people's introduction to sales is a scam, which is what I would call that.
Yes.
Because then it colors their mind on sales as being a scam, when in reality it's not. It's a necessity.
Right.
Many of the places that we have been, I guess not many, the main places we've been that were not successful were sales. It's always about sales. This was the philosophical difference I had at one of our previous stops. The owner wanted to put the money into the on-air. And I said, that's like you're going Anaheim Angels and Artie Moreno, signing Albert Pujols and Josh Hamilton. Who's going to pitch? Because if you don't have pitching, you're not going to win games. Now, if all you care about is scoring a bunch of runs, you're going to be great because you'll have a nice lineup. But at some point, you're going to have to pay these people, and you need sales. Let's take care of sales first. And then once we take care of sales, now we can spend money on the lineup. But if we're not sold out, then we need to focus on sales. And valuable salespeople, from my standpoint, are infinitely more valuable than on air.
Right.
And because at this point, they're the barrier to entry of being on air is shit. Anybody with a phone, but a good salesperson, whew. Give me that person over a good on-air person any day of the week. And oftentimes now, there's some overlap. What else do we have going on here? I love TMA recent history category. That's from Adam. Do you pronounce it Welly or Well, Jackson?
It's a really tough question. I'm going to go Welly. That E's doing something there.
You could tell early on Balloon Party, you're like, I made a mistake. Yes, that's a good read. The thing is about it, though, I knew I didn't really want to do it, and so in my contract, I had a separate Balloon Party contract as an agreement with management here. So I had two different contracts, and the Balloon Party one was only for a year. I requested 6 months. They said, how about we compromise and we do a year? And I go, okay, no problem. And so help me. So this is actually the truth. Without you, I don't know what I would have done on Balloon Party, because I would just walk in there and then you had the questions and then it was easy to fill an hour.
Yeah.
And it became like, oh, I like doing Balloon Party more than I like doing the TMA.
Right.
The show I like doing the most is this show, Tim McKernan Show podcast. Then it became Balloon Party. Then it became TMA. And so I think oftentimes, if you live on TMA's social media platforms, there's revisionist history, kind of like I feel like what went on for a little while, and it might be starting to go away with the 2025 Cardinals, like, oh, maybe their plan was right. I can't allow that because that wasn't the plan. They were actively trying to trade Nolan Arenado and would have traded Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras had they agreed to it. So we can't act like, the front office had it right the whole time. I think even the front office is kind of like, we kind of didn't, this wasn't the plan. This was what we were told to do. Along those same lines. So the revisionist history gets into it. Some people like some things, some people don't like other things. That's from St. Charles. But I'm a Balloon Party baby, so you got that. I think you did gain audience from Balloon Party.
Yeah. No argument there.
That goes without saying. Let's see. The 101 texters and YouTube chat commenters made Balloon Party wonderful. I loved it too, says Adam Welly. All right, I'm trying to make sure I read everything. And when you leave the show, you reach your full potential and become successful. Oh, then Iggy takes a shot, so I'm not going to do that. The old school ESPN listener is just a straw man festival. The old school ESPN listener is just a straw man festival. What does that mean? Is that like an ESPN network thing? Is that a 101 thing? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm not positive either.
TMA audience loves to bitch about Jackson not knowing about the Blues, yet complains about the amount of Blues coverage. My theory on that is that is a TMA, I don't know if it's a fan page, Reddit, other group text, whatever, about the amount of Blues conversations and interviews on TMA. Yeah. Because if you actually are hosting the show, you know that mathematically that's not the case. Mm-hmm. But 101, not Jackson or myself or Martin or Doug, had a deal with the Blues that at 8:15 during this past season, there would be a Blues guest on. And while you might not enjoy that, some did enjoy it. And then also, that is the deal between the station and the organization. And then also we're on for 4 hours, and that is approximately on the high side, well, taking the Joey Vitale ones out of it, yes. On the high side, no more than 20 minutes of 4 hours. Right. So it when I see it, it kind of lets me know somebody is on TMA social media, and that's where they get their views from, kind of like how people think Doug gets his information from InfoWars. Right. Or as Martin said, QAnon sports anchor or whatever he called it, something like that. Yes. It was something that was said yesterday. Yeah. So it's kind of a tell, because I'm like, that isn't actually mathematically accurate, but that lets me know where you're getting your information from. Let's see. Charlie's got national support for NASCAR. Joe Roderick for pro wrestling. I don't know what that means. That was following Stagg's comment about TMA audience loves to bitch about Jackson not knowing what the Blues, yet complains about the amount of Blues coverage. And then Too Fat to Kayak said, Charlie's got national support for NASCAR. Joe Roderick for pro wrestling.
Big fan of both those gentlemen.
Wonderful gentleman. I was texting with Joe Roderick last Thursday while we were playing at the Dotem.
Is that right?
And he said, hey, I found a bunch of Inside STL stuff over here at KFNS. And I said, oh, is that right? What do you got over there? He goes, a bunch of stuff. He said, I'm here till 3 o'clock. And I'm like, I'm at the Dotem.
Right.
I have no idea what it'd be. Like some Inside STL,
like t-shirts?
Lights.
Okay.
Yeah, and t-shirts.
Yeah, probably some signage.
And Chuckles is going to come in studio, I guess.
Yeah,
coming up.
I hope so. I love seeing Chuck.
Let's see. I nerd so hard on every playoff pitch. That's Madam Welly. Why is this Jackson so much better? Just because you guys can cuss? WTF. That's from Adam Welly. So Adam Welly thinks you're better on this show than you are on TMA. I guess this is tough because I'm trying to interpret questions and I might be doing so unfairly.
I would say it's rare on like when I get to do like this is something I love too because like on this show I turn on the mics, the live stream's already going, and then you and I sit here and have a conversation.
We just talk it over.
When I'm on TMA,
you got a lot going on.
101 or before, like there's other things I'm constantly doing and have to be on top of. And constantly worry about saying the wrong thing. Like you're fucking live. Like it's written in pen, baby. So you gotta like think about that. And think of it. There's a lot of things going on where I don't feel as freed up. It's not like I'm worried or nervous or not comfortable, but there's a lot of other things going on. Whereas this, like I am.
It's a free for all.
It's just hanging out.
Yeah, you know? I mean we could wrap it up right now, but yet there's so much more to get to.
Right.
Let's see. Oh, Tim, I have a question. Q. You mentioned that hate can be good for business. I wouldn't say can. I'd say is.
Yeah, definitively.
But do you ever feel you play into the hate too much? I don't think this is just who I am.
Right.
Most of the texts you read are those from a negative, hateful stance. Well, I have to tell you, most of the texts are.
Yeah, it's not. That's not like cherry picking. That's like.
I think it would be. I don't know how to do it.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the most informative things we could do for the people who really, I don't know what the right word would be, because as the lady at the school picnic was saying, she goes, well, you're doing something right because it's been on for as long as it is and obviously has a following and I can't stop listening to it. But I wouldn't necessarily describe her a fan. But either way, listener and daily listener, it would be really eye-opening, I think, and perhaps incredibly informative for us to be able to let the audience see the text inbox. Mm-hmm. Because I think there is this belief that we cherry pick texts, right. And in reality, there are, I don't know, I would think at minimum hundreds a day for sure.
I think 1,000 on some days.
Probably in the range of thousands,
right.
And you know, there's no cherry picking. Mm-hmm. I would say. If I were to tell you what I see now that I didn't see when we started at 101 8 months ago, as far as a positive goes, because certainly now it's more positive, but that was also very predictable. I could have told you that would happen in October, in part because I've lived it both with The Morning Grind in 2004, with old people who didn't like it when we popped up on KFNS, and with Balloon Party in 2022. So this stuff is you know, it's part of the deal. And then we're also aware of the number of downloads, and advertising revenue and the stuff that actually matters. But again, it's kind of like Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler with the driver. It's not our place to say that. That now I see, and I guess you see if you have it open, but Martin, I know, has it open. Okay, I get it. The show's grown on me. That's one out of every, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough to give a number, but it's
one out of every 500 texts.
Yeah, it's super rare.
Yeah,
it's super rare.
But here's the thing. That's not a complaint.
No, not at all.
The show is a roast. You know, even though it wasn't designed to be a roast, the show is just us bullshitting, and the show is going back and forth amongst ourselves and amongst the listeners who choose to be in the reindeer games. The ones who don't want to be in there, they're not going to be involved. So that's the nature of the show. So therefore, at a roast, if everything was positive, you go, that's a pretty shitty roast.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right. If it was a love fest,
Right.
it wouldn't be
That's
much of
not
a
it.
roast. Right.
I think if any of us announced that we were leaving the show, I think many of the people who, on a daily basis, attack, but it's kind of like watching Jeffrey Ross or Nikki Glaser, you know, would maybe more likely privately, but certainly in some capacity, some would just text it in and go, God, this fucking sucks.
Yeah,
Because I have, you know, whether you're somebody who's only been listening to it for 8 months, or you go back to the very, very, very beginning, it's been a part of your life. And so whenever that time comes, that will probably be when people, would that be Kayfabe?
I don't know what you.
I thought you were the one who talked about this.
I talked about what? K-fob?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever said those words in my life.
Really?
K-fob? I don't even know how to spell it.
Kayfabe.
K-A-Y.
F-A-B-E. I'm folding.
Kayfabe, the practice of maintaining the illusion that stage event storylines and characters are genuine. Oh, okay, so it's like WWE stuff.
Right.
Okay. No, I don't know. I like using the term retcon.
Excuse me?
Retcon, like going back in time and like changing up recanonizing something or changing the history.
Recanonizing something. I thought the only thing that can be canonized is an individual who becomes a saint, but I could be wrong on that. So this isn't me coming at you. This is me asking a question from a genuine place.
So retcon, usually used in the film, television series, or other fictional work, a new piece of information that imposes a different interpretation on previously described events, typically used to facilitate a dramatic plot shift or account for an inconsistency.
It has nothing to do with sainthood.
No, not to my knowledge. I'm sure there's some saints who've been retconned, but no, that would be like, I'm trying to give a TMA-like example.
Okay.
Like, if you, for whatever reason, were like, no, I did in fact tickle the cat that day, and that would be like retconning.
Nicely done.
Yeah, like I was the one.
You're talking about the dog thing where they were going to fire the cat,
right?
Because he made me laugh.
Yeah,
and then they played this. This is awesome. This one's worth, because this does go back almost 20 years, where the general manager of the station, who eventually producer Joe would tell to go fuck himself, which was considered insubordinate by some attorneys, was getting ready to try to make a case to fire the cat, plays the audio. I mean, we're going back to, I think, cassette days, and he hits play, and I say, the cat, because it always is.
It was not cat.
It's not cat. It's the cat. The cat stopped tickling me, and then he hit stop, and he goes, "Well, then how do you explain that?"
Like a smoking gun.
It was like Johnny Cochran in the glove, and the cat goes, and it's just me, the cat, and the general manager in his office, and the cat goes, "Are you serious? Like you really are in here to yell at me that I was actually tickling this guy?"
Right.
And I go, Evan, I gotta tell you, he wasn't tickling me. The copy was so ridiculous, I was laughing through it, and I just said,
made a joke
to the cat, stop tickling me, and it really blew up the case because they were going to use that as cause to terminate the cat's contract. Quite a little moment in contract litigation.
Sir, you were exited for tickling your co-host. Like, that would be, tough. But retcon would be like, tomorrow, June 5th, 2025, you come on TMA and be like, I actually was
tickling the cat.
I remember
I know this might be on some of your minds from 19 years ago, even though it never got public until this stupid shit podcast. But now that it's come up, I was being tickled by the cat.
Right. You have retconned TMA lore. That would be that.
Well, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, nicely done. Let's see what I got. And then there's the guy who texts him over the weekend when he has feedback on the show.
Hell's that?
Now I got to scroll backwards to see what's going on here.
This is the problem with QFTA is a comment comes in and then 20 minutes later when I read it.
God, what do we got? Wow, there really is. Okay. All I learned from poker is always act strong and aggressive. That's Adam Welly. Stag, cycle of texters sending in more hateful items, particularly to Jackson, though I think he knows the game. I won't even get into the Reddit aspect end. That's from Stag. I don't think you get that much hate.
No, it's not that bad.
And I don't think it's like real.
No, that's the thing. Is if it does come in, if there's a high volume moment, it's almost
right. And
99%
all of us,
sarcasm.
Me and you, I think, perhaps, and I'm not. This isn't like a shot. I think it's just because we've seen more of it. We recognize the difference, and it might not. I think it would be obvious to everybody. I think when one is like, and again, this is in the midst of 1,000 texts in a show, where you go, oh, that one's different.
Yeah.
And it's just a phone number, just like most of the texts are. I don't know, about 50%, I guess, are just phone numbers. And I go, ooh, that one right there stands out. Right. That's a little, and it's a weird deal because I don't know how to communicate it. And I realize it'd probably be wonderful if I had an example, but it's something where you see it and you go, oh, there's a little difference. We got to keep an eye on that one because
the phone
but also for the purpose of being fully truthful, that's I don't know, in my experience, like once every 18 months, 2 years kind of a situation.
Where it's like really,
where it's like concerning as opposed to like Harrison's brother Master,
right.
that kind
that's
of
been
thing.
There for,
it's been there for years. So yeah, that's not it's not to say that it's not a real thing so much as they aren't concerning in the slightest. No. I mean, not even in the slightest. And we have dealt with concerning ones. So we're veterans in that sense, I guess you can say, unfortunately. But again, that's kind of part of the deal.
Right.
Let's see. Nearly everyone who listens to you guys does so without the urge to complain or criticize. Ignore the loud minority. Oh, we're good on that. That's from Kemi Kev. Pick, stag, pick. Pick, stag, pick. Stag. That's from Adam Welly. I think the negative textures are plants from Tim. I don't think Adam Welly really means that. But if you do, I'd be happy to discuss it. There is some real hate towards some members of the show, which is bizarre. I always thought that some of the long-term texters are just kind of playing characters with their constant criticism. I would agree with everything that A. St. Charles just wrote there.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. I think that there's... and I think where the first part with the real hate towards some member of the show, I think that comes from, I gather, like a message board, Reddit, fan page bubble.
Yeah. Echo chambers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you understand that, which is why when I see something like, all you guys do is talk hockey, I'm like, oh, that's somebody who lives on one of those things, because mathematically that's not accurate. But if somebody's in the bubble, you can't pull them out.
Right.
And then with regard to the texters, the 100%. Yeah. And I don't know about playing texters. It's just a roast. That's just what the show is. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
It's funny that way. Yeah, that's like part of the fun.
That like it's enjoyable.
Right.
But as I said, when I was going over to the lady who didn't like the show at the school picnic, and Polling's wife goes, "You really don't care that she doesn't like you?" And it was a moment where I go, "Well, of course not." But it struck me because it was like I was talking to somebody who's not in our world, and which is where 99.9% of the population lives, and I'm not even talking about the four of us who are on the show. I'm talking about the listeners as well. So 99.9% of the population isn't in that world. I think the listeners of this podcast or TMA would go, yeah, they don't really care if you don't like them, not because you don't care so much as you just understand that's the job.
Yep.
It's like being a ball player. You understand you're going to strike out sometimes. It's just kind of the deal.
Right.
So if striking out really fucks you up, then I would recommend not playing baseball.
Right.
Right. But it was so surprising. So here's somebody I've known, God almighty, 30 plus years, who's a wonderful person too. And it was like she knows, therefore, of course, known me, and she like was in disbelief. And I'm like, yeah. And then I was in disbelief that she couldn't believe that I didn't care. And it was, if with anything, wanting to have a conversation with the person. And it just shows like how strange our jobs are, I guess, because for the average person, that would bother them, which is why sometimes I guess with my friends, if it does come up, I'll say, yeah, it's a weird deal. It's just kind of the job. There was something in one of our group texts. I can't even remember what the fuck it was. Oh, why is Lisa Ann not at the Dotem? Like a world-class golfer, too, asking this question. And he goes, it seems like it was great. He goes, why was Lisa Ann not there? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to give you more than you want.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and my wife and I are in bed, and it's 10:30. The pills hadn't hit yet, so I'm still up. And she goes, why do you spend so much time on these questions. And I go, that's, it's so-and-so, and he's a good guy, and he's legitimately, so I'm like laying out my interpretation of what happened, which I reiterated the next day. Mm-hmm. And I said to Iggy, who I think was listening en route to, because he was driven by Chris Pondoff, recovering alcoholic, to you and me, and I said, if I said anything that from your perspective is incorrect, please set the record straight, because I said it on this show, so you need to have this show's platform to set the record straight, or I need to set the record straight. And he goes, no, you got it right. I'm like, all right, fair enough. I think Lisa Ann would come back. I don't know. When's the last time you communicated with her?
Like personally communicated with her a year or two. The last Instagram message or Instagram post I put up of just my Instagram, she put a heart under it. But that was a heart under it. That was the last time you could even consider some sort of interaction. Texted her a couple of years, 2 years maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
God, that's not possible, man. Because she left the show when we went to Bahamas for my wife's birthday.
Yeah. So whenever February. Yeah, whenever that. And then actually, that's not true. She texted me happy birthday on my birthday this year.
How about that? Yeah. Wow, you've been caught in multiple lies. How do you feel about it?
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
We had a long exchange, and I feel like it was maybe like in March. Fuck, I don't know. Boy, it was a long. It was March. It would have been right around your birthday, actually. When is your birthday?
March the 13th.
Holy shit, we were texting on March the 13th.
There you go.
You feel like I cucked you on your birthday.
I would if I didn't get a happy birthday, but I do remember getting a happy birthday text from her.
And it was kind of one of those things. Martin actually caught on to it, the Barry Bonds analogy, when I did the interview with Bonds in 2000, and then he came back, and Savard was kind of like, I wonder if you'll get him this time. I'm like, you're issuing a challenge. Right. And then I go up to him when I could tell Barry Bonds remembered me from the year before, and then I go, hey, while you're in town, and he goes, man. Yeah. And I'm like, Lisa Ann and I are having this really kind exchange, really, really, really kind exchange. And if I would have gone, because it's March 13th, I knew the Dotem was coming up. If I would have gone at the end, hey, while I got you, I think it would have tainted the conversation. I'm at peace with not asking.
Yeah, I think we still made the right call.
Huge crowds on both days. Yeah. So maybe I would ask. But I would do it on my own. I would initially, I'd listen, if you don't want to do it, God bless, but I would be remiss, especially. I'd love to have her come back for Fantasy Football Fridays.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's one of our best segments. I've always wondered this. Let's say you have a situation where you need or want something from somebody you haven't spoken to in a while.
I hate doing it.
It sucks.
I hate it.
Is it better to just point blank ask for it right away, or
it's a great question. Big fan of your question.
Obligatory how are you? How are things going with you? Is everything good with the family? And then after a couple of texts back and forth of small talk, then ask for it, or just come right out and ask for it. Because you wouldn't be saying, how are you doing? How's the family? If you weren't going to ask for something at the end. I generally, if someone's reaching out to me for something or curious about something, ask a question or need something, just ask it. And then afterwards, if you're like, hey, whenever you get a chance, we could have a call and talk it over. Love that. Hate the first couple texts of how's everything going with you? It's okay, do you actually give a fuck, or do you have something you have to ask me?
It's coming.
It's it's a really tough, because you don't want to be rude.
I actually lived this within the last 24 hours.
Okay, this is because I always fight this battle.
And it wasn't like I need something, but I don't know. I don't feel like I'm saying anything. There's some talk of a potential podcast. Well, fuck it. I'll just say, what does it matter? With Caden Cross. Which when we were coming over here, you remember this?
I do.
And I was as fucked as this sounds. I think because Jackson will be my sounding board sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I don't know who I was talking to. Oh, somebody who's maybe getting involved with Sound Story. I was on the phone with this gentleman yesterday. And I said, when we were debating what to do with the Hubbard move, and then also what to do with the 101 ESPN move and all of this stuff, I said some of the most wise comments have come from 26-year-old Jackson Burkett.
Yeah, thank you.
That is absolutely the truth. And so it's the end of 2021, and I don't even know how this came to pass, but there's real momentum for me. And Kate and I had talked about doing a podcast, doing a show. Podcasting probably wasn't. Then we almost did a couple of episodes in New York with Artie Lang when I was doing the Artie Lang show, and they were really high on it. And then she got pregnant, and she couldn't fly across the country. And you want to talk about a sliding doors? That really is one. Now, obviously, the Artie situation, was always a wild card. But that was so. Anyway, this 2021, and we're talking about doing. We even have a call. I still have a screenshot of the call, just because it was an amusing assembly of people involved in the call. And she's like all over doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how it came back up, but recently it came back up, and I go, like, you got, but either way, they weren't like, you're coming over here. Let's focus on TMA and Balloon Party,
right.
And you and your porn star podcast. Maybe we can see how things go. And I'm like, all right, but in my mind, I'm like, the porn star podcast has the highest ceiling, and where I am, I'm upside guy, and I'm like, all right. But I'm like, God, if we stay at KFNS, I can do the podcast with Kate, and it's not going to be an issue. So anyway, so now that's back in play. And I hadn't communicated, so I was looking, I'm like, when is the last time I had communicated with her? So I'm literally in the exact mindset that you're in. And it's like, what are we? Oh, we were texting about Diora Baird. Remember the...
oh, yeah. She was like just...
She's beautiful.
Right.
She's beautiful. And she was like kind of hovering on possibly getting into adult. And then one of our listeners, reached out to her and said, hey, they're talking about you on the show. And then she was irritated.
Right,
I think Iggy reached out to her and she said, no, I'll never come on that show. I don't know what she took offense to. All her doing is beautiful. So Kane's like, send me her information. I would shoot her in a heartbreak. What's her deal? Because I always enjoy finding. Yeah. It's my hobby. Haven't found many recently. Yeah. And she's already hip to my girl Ella Reese. By the way, Iggy that's a whole nother story. Got to get Iggy on the phone. He was telling me when we were hanging out at the Dotem that he had her like booked, and then something happened, and then he had her booked again, and then something happened, then he kind of lipped off to the manager, and then they got pissed at him, and so he doesn't think he's gonna get her.
Lipped off. God, that's great.
He goes, well, I just saw her on Instagram. She's like hooking up with 3 girls, so obviously she's available. And they're like, I don't appreciate the way you're talking to me, sir. So I think Iggy's Ella Reese conversation might be.
Who was the porn star who wouldn't come on in the winter because of her sciatica?
Janine.
Janine Lindenboom.
Yeah, from the Blink 182 cover.
Like Heim Bloom. She was like, I'll get you in the fall.
Absolutely. Caden goes, I will make her the center of all of my energies.
Good Lord.
Yeah, she was fired up. So we hadn't texted. This goes back to last March. And I'm like, okay. And I got this cleared with the powers that be. I'm like, okay, so you really are on board with this. And they're like, yeah, if you want to do it, it's not, because it's not going to be like, okay, tell me about when it's not that, like I'm wearing a shawl to cover my erection, it's going to be, Caden's a sharp lady, just like Lisa Ann is. Yep. She got back to me right when I was sitting down at dinner last night, enjoying my delicious treats. And so my wife and I rarely get this time where we can just have the two of us. And if I would have just gone, hold on a second. Yeah. Right. She goes, who the fuck are you texting? Caden. She goes, oh, God. So I just didn't get back right away. And then I got back and I haven't heard back from her yet. And I'd be curious if she still wants to do it. But we've got where we just shot Spread Zone, that set.
Yeah, it's sick.
And if you can set up the same one that she can have, so it looks like a similar set in L.A. I mean, I'm assuming she's still in L.A.
Zoom it between the two. Yeah, you can.
I want to do this so badly. But Tommy here is like, dude, you've got too much on your plate as it is. We worry about burning you out. But, I really want to do it.
Yeah, this isn't like, Tim breaks down the bullpen.
Tim's not interested in breaking down the bullpen.
No, this is right where you shine.
This is my bailiwick, is what they call it.
I think the move in this situation, like I was talking about, was probably best. Hey, hope all is well. Can I give you a call within the next couple of days?
Yeah, I wouldn't do the phone call. You know me.
I know.
Maybe I should.
But in general, I think that's it's at least you're not coming across because I think the small talk before asking for something comes across as disingenuous.
Because usually I'll just send her pictures of stag starlets I find and go, you got to work here. I got somebody for you. Like I'm Peter Gammons.
Or have that, and then when she comments, and then after that,
I don't have anybody. I need somebody to tell me somebody. So I wrote, "What's up, Kate? How are you doing?" That's all I said. And she, 2 hours later, "What up, my dude?" And I said, "What's up? How are things going?" So I still have, but I mean, it's not an ask. It's like, do you want to do this? There's obviously hey, you're not doing me a favor doing a show. There'd be compensation. And I don't know where she is on this stuff anymore. Right. She's still the Scorsese of the San Fernando Valley. Yeah. She wins Best Director left and right.
Does she?
Yeah. But I would love to do the show.
Right. In a live pod from AVNs. Think how great that would be.
Yeah. Like, in my mind, I'm like, this is great. But then I wonder about, I don't really wonder, but I know what comes with it. It's like, oh, this is the guy doing the porn podcast.
Yeah, pornman.
I don't give a fuck to tell you.
I'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
She's super fucking talented.
Yeah.
You've never been on a show when she was on.
No, but I listened to the Caden Cross FFF.
An all-timer with the
So-
paralegal from our like studio sponsor who came down to the studio. This was at KFNS. I think Jay was in studio. It had to be because it was an FFF.
I think it might have been a remote.
Okay, well, there's one where we were in
there's
studio in Webster, and Doug was there, and I was there, and I mean, and I don't want to call it hangers on, but there were a lot of people in the studio. I didn't know who the fuck
Often
they were.
was the case for FFF. The Seika and Kitten Natavidad, I think, was breaking the fire code.
I mean, so many people either lurking outside the studio or in the studio.
Literally in, like, on top of
And I'm
you
like,
guys.
I think this guy over here is just jacking off and isn't associated with any of the parties. But the paralegal comes, like moms were coming in to, like, quench their lesbian fantasies with Caden. And, like, I mean, Jay was...
There's a moment where some woman comes in, I can't remember who it was, but
There was a mom who left her kids in the minivan, parked in the fire lane, and came in.
it's unbelievable. He says, "Let me see the fanny," and there's a second or two break, and then he goes, "Oh my sweet lord." He said, "I think I might need to sit down." And I heard that for the first time in a while recently, and I almost pissed
Absolute
myself
best.
laughing. I thought it was so his reaction, and then Doug's over there doing the goalie
Yeah,
rankings,
goalie. I think I'd go with Glenn Hall, Mr. Goalie.
plausible deniability over there. It's just
Absolutely.
amazing. It's truly one of the high marks of the show.
Oh, so yeah, she's just you know. But I mean, we haven't. I mean, that was like November of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
She might be like, yeah, I'm not interested in doing that, or we live in some outpost. You know, she's
Sure.
married to the Plowhawks guy, Manuel.
Manuel, right.
Very well hung, Manuel.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I think he's uncut too. Would much prefer this weather over hot and humid any day. That's from a St. Charles.
Again, this is us getting back to some of these messages 25 minutes later.
Red Rocks is the best concert venue ever. I can't say that I've been at every concert venue, but it was wonderful. Last year was wonderful.
What would people even put, like, because like Red Rocks to me is like everyone's like talks about, I guess, the Sphere now, but that's also like band dependent.
So we were thinking about going to Las Vegas this week, and it's Kenny Chesney, and it's nothing against Kenny Chesney, just not either one of our scenes.
I think you're
Whatever.
taller than him, by the way.
I think so.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about that. Very few and far between. My wife's like, God, you can get tickets for like $90. We might as well go, just to see it. I'm kind of like, still.
That's all it is, $90.
Well,
For
it's
a
because
certain- right,
of who it is. I think, you know, for some of the other artists
Eagles
who've played there.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, you've had Eagles, U2,
U2,
Dead and Company. I feel like there's another obvious one that I'm forgetting.
Darren Aronofsky showed a movie there that was built for the Sphere, and that looked pretty cool.
Those are right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just decided to stay back. And I was surprised that you and Doug both thought we made the right move.
Yeah. Well, Stan, in June, you can't be cold. We can't be cold in June. That's a no-go.
And it's going to feel a lot colder than the 50s.
The altitude, like, I know, like, it's easy to get over for some people, but whenever I've gone out to Colorado, the altitude kicks me in the ass.
Is that right?
Like, I need at least 18 hours of, like, just pounding water and, like, taking it easy before I can really get into the swing of things.
This is a TMA fan page grievance. Let all of the people waiting in and let the new AI bot take them out.
I didn't even know about this. This AI bot is news to me.
There is some AI thing that Facebook has in groups
Right.
that I guess takes topics from the group and then creates questions to try to encourage engagement.
Yeah, I don't really love that. Seems like it's just like in there to
I wonder if
mix
there's
shit
any
up.
way we can get it out of there.
Yeah, block him.
Yeah. Let's see. Pull the plug. All the heavy fan pinners can migrate to the Stephen Wildwood fan page.
that
Rick
still
Majera
going
says
strong?
Tower. I don't know on that, but it's interesting. If like there's peace with me pulling the plug, then I'll pull the plug here in
Yeah.
the next 10 minutes.
We can make it. What if we like made it like the Packers, where it's fan owned? You know, everyone owns a small sliver.
Yeah, I just don't care to experience any
To the downside.
downside
Right.
on something that has respectfully
Right.
limited upside. Those people are in Costco every day, and it almost makes me not want to ever go into the store.
Probably talking about the people where the job I was offered. I was
Oh,
offered
the
an
internet
interview.
switching thing?
Yeah, I was offered an interview. Yeah, it's tough, and then like they're like just good people who are in a tough spot like with their job, and it sucks.
Jackson's generation calls it Riz, Tim. Get with the times. You're still cute, so that's called taxes, Doug.
You got a lot of riz, Tim.
What were we talking about, though?
Salesmanship, I think.
Oh, you think so? Oh,
Yeah, you got riz.
Well, I'm not talking about mine. I'm just talking about, like, I think sales. I wasn't talking. Like, when I think of Riz, I think about, like, you're trying to land a lass.
Yeah. Well, I think, aura, I think, is the better word.
Is that right?
That's
really?
another Gen Z term, aura.
No, I understand. I follow it all. What I'm saying is sales is a great industry.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the introduction for young people right out of school to sales is oftentimes a scam.
Yeah.
And so it colors their perspective of what really can be a great industry that doesn't require a degree or some pursuit of a grad degree or, law school, MBAs, medical. You can make a lot of money. I mean, not like some I'm sure make millions, but
it's scams or cold calling people.
That's what I'm saying, or a pyramid scheme or some bullshit, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, if somebody asks me about getting into this industry, I'd say, okay, you can go on air, but you're holding a lottery ticket, and best of luck. And even getting the lottery ticket might not necessarily pay that much. But sales, if you really like the industry and you want to be around it, that's where I would tell you. Let's see. Chairman, just delete and reset with proper vetting. I don't know what that's in reference to. Boy, we got a lot of YouTube comments. I don't think I can read them all here. Max Homa's really fallen off.
I love that he hoofed his own bag, though. His own bag.
I was watching that live, and when he 3-putt 18 or 36 in his case, I was like, oh, God.
Being out there all damn day. And did he play in the Schwab? I don't know. I'm crowdsourcing here.
He played in the Memorial the day before.
That's what I meant. Yeah, so he goes, from Memorial to walking 36 holes trying to qualify.
All right. I love the show. Thanks for providing so much insight and history. No problem, Adam Wally. My pleasure. All right. I think how long have we gone? We've gone an hour and 40 minutes.
A little less, $1:30.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you to all of the listeners. Thank you. You can always email in TMcKernan at InsideSTL.com, TMCKERNAN at InsideSTL. Anything and everything is welcome. I'm happy to answer whatever. There was something yesterday in the YouTube chat like, boy, I've noticed the show still hasn't even talked about, and I can't remember what it was. And I'm like, I'm here. I don't really hide my email address.
Right.
You can ask it, and I'll answer it. If I can't talk about it, I can't talk about it. But like 99% of things I can talk about.
Pretty transparent.
I'd like to think, so when there are these conspiracy theories, when I would answer, but if a gentleman's saying, you get $1,000 for sending an email and you don't get any emails, that kind of tells you that I guess people just don't want the real answers. But then I made the observation regarding spring training. I could go to some of these people in the Cardinals and get answers, and I don't do it. So you know what that makes me? A fraud.
Yeah.
The media in this town is soft.
Sometimes I'm fraudulent often. Also, if people ever want to get in contact with me, Jay Burkett at Inside STL. If you ever message me on Facebook, I promise you I will not read it.
You have your DM? I have a lot of...
I don't have it turned off. I refuse to read it. I don't like it. I prefer email. So Jay Burkett, Burkett at InsideSTL.com.
I get discovered I have like a bunch of DMs.
Instagram, there's a section called requests for people who don't follow you.
Who you don't follow.
Or yes, you don't follow for that. And a lot of times it's spam. I have a lot of spam in that section. But there's sometimes some real ones, and I've connected with folks that way. So
I just opened up my Instagram to look at my DMs, and the first thing I see is it's pouring down rain at Red Rocks and Ryan Bingham's post from last night. Oh, we just dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
But I never was sweating it. I know, I wasn't results oriented.
No, you made the right.
I would have been freezing my balls off in the rain and spending I view it more, not even the money, because I was lighting the Airbnb on fire anyway. Because let me workshop this with you. And I know we were landing the plane, but now I'm sticking around and what the people think. So we have a family vacation with our sons, my wife, my parents, and one of my brothers and his wife and his son, who is my older son's same age. So that's coming up, no matter what. But my wife and I would like just our trip, but I try to spread them out, even though I have taken 2 vacation days in 2025. And that's my choice. If anything, Tommy Mattern here says, you need to take vacation. You saw, I don't know if you were in the Spread Zone studio when John Kiowski came in.
I was
You
not.
were not. And he goes, what are you doing here? Like laughing. He goes, I thought you were going on vacation. I go, and then I explained what happened. And he goes, unbelievable. And then we were talking. He goes, what were you going to see? I said, Brian Bingham. And I said to Riz, he goes, yeah, I've never been to Red Rocks. Like, have you seen Ryan Bingham? He goes, no, I don't listen to stuff that sucks. And Kiowski just laughed and walked out. But that was my thing. I'm like, I don't want to burn 4 vacation days
Just for,
just to like go sit inside in Denver.
Yeah. That lame.
But then, like, in order to go somewhere else, now I'd be, because it's tough, I can't do it. I mean, I can, but it's tougher to do it during the school year.
Yeah.
But then it means, like, I'm going to this is like 4th of July in the following week. And then if I were to go somewhere either a couple weeks beforehand or a couple weeks after, you see what I'm saying? I'm uncomfortable with that. Now, I am certain, I mean, 99.9%, I don't even know why I'm not saying 100%, that if I went into Tommy and I said, here's the situation, because he's probably going to go, what wound up happening with you went out of town? And I said, hey, can I take it like at the end of June? Because the other weekend to go would be the Plowhawks wedding, but I'm not missing the Plowhawks wedding. I know some people are.
I am. Sorry, Posey.
Or go a couple weeks after.
Right.
And he'd go, I know exactly. What would he say? Here, see if you could say.
Yeah, dude, whatever you want to do.
That's
go ahead.
actually it.
Just put it down in the ADP. Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, you were worried about you getting burned out anyway. That's what it would be. So, dude, yeah totally. Yeah, like why are you, kind of like a why are you asking? That's what it would be.
Yes.
For whatever reason, I don't do well with that. Even though the person who is my boss encourages it. Yeah. And I don't use all of my vacation, and I don't know how to explain it. Now, I realize you're not at this point in your career. You will absolutely, I believe, make more money than me and probably be in a position where vacation is not even an issue when you're 48. So I want to make this clear that I recognize that the scales are not even at the moment, but Jackson at 48 and Tim at 48, Jackson at 48 is going to be better off. There isn't a doubt in my mind. But I'm just not comfortable with it. So I know you can't speak to it because you're not in that spot.
I'll say,
Because if you're like if you were to take off, like I think I had 7 vacation days in early July. And if I were to take, I think like 3 or 4 at either the end of June or end of July, as well as the 7 at the beginning of July, and you were to do that, we would bust your balls upside down. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I've got, a lot of vacation at this moment.
Right.
But nobody's saying, hey, that's a little too much.
Right. Yeah, I don't think anyone would be, no one that matters would be like, what,
Boy, what an important clause.
And at the end of the day, I mean, that's kind of been the theme of the podcast.
And that's kind of one of the things. I'm like, I need to be able to spend time with just me and my wife.
100%.
But I don't know. I can't. I don't. That's the thing.
Right.
Like John. I think John was kind of like had Riz not shit on Ryan Bingham in alt country. I think he was about to say, well, just take the time anyway.
Right.
That's his whole his big thing last week when I saw him at the Dotem. And how about him coming to the Dotem on his birthday? By the way. He said, enjoy your vacation next week. Enjoy your vacation next week. So then he saw me and he's like, what in the hell are you doing? It's like, we got to have an intervention with this fucking guy.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I know what you're talking about, but at the end of the day, like, again, nobody that matters would actually be upset.
I don't know. Right? But then if I can't enjoy it because I'm not in...
Yeah,
that's
a different thing. But that might just be like, rip the Band-Aid off and do it. And
then at this point, the Plowhawk was on TMA and he was saying, we've got too many people coming to the wedding. And I'm like, oh, well, then should I bail them out and subtract 2 from the total? But then, I mean, at this point, what are we, 2.5 weeks away from the wedding?
Yeah.
I mean, that'd probably like, fuck him,
Yeah, if you.
And I kind of want to go to the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
If I wasn't going to my buddy's wedding, who, like, again, this guy who's getting married.
Sweet Kai.
Sweet Kai's like one of my 5 less than that. I don't want to put numbers on it.
And he's got this lesbian fiance.
No, he's been propositioned by a lesbian. But
in my mind, she answered yes.
Maybe in the back of her mind, but front of her mind she said no. But
terrible miss.
One of my closest friends in the entire world is getting married, so I'm going to that. But that's no shade. I when I heard that I was going to be
great
invited.
Entertainment. Me and you and the Plowhawk and Doug
probably
and Iggy and some other friends of the Feather who aren't necessarily, as you call them, public-facing spheres.
Yeah, some more behind-the-scenes friends or friends from times gone by. Yeah, that would be. Trust me, I really wish I could be at that wedding. And I love that Plowhawk. I just like hanging out with the Plowhawk.
Yeah, it'd be good amusement.
He's hilarious.
And I'd get a chance to meet your girlfriend.
Yes, well,
because your girlfriend was invited to this wedding.
Yeah,
whereas she was not
+1
at Cape Cod.
I like how Iggy's opening up applications for his date to the Plow.
On the YouTube chat of all places.
He's going to be
where
with the guy.
It is at least one cock per person in the YouTube chat. Yeah, I saw him. I said, "Hey, you bringing somebody?" And I go, "No, I gave up." Because besides Plows, he doesn't want that many people there.
That's fair. That's a better answer.
Let's see. What else we got? Oh, this is on the vacation thing. Stay cute, Tim. Thank you. You said charisma. That's called taxes, Doug. Oh, so that's with regard to the sales conversation.
Okay, gotcha.
When I think now, am I wrong when I think of Riz? I'm not as Scott Rizzuto. I associate Riz with a guy rizzing up a lass, so he can engage in coitus.
That's the more common. Yes, that's the.
But Riz can also be used in the sales world.
I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't be like, if I was a client, I would be like, man, you're really rizzing me up. That would be, but you could say like, wow, what an aura about you. What an aura on you.
Oh, I almost feel like that's creepier.
If it's another person,
they're both off.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I wouldn't do it if like the person across from me was 50, 60 years old. I wouldn't be like, man, you got some aura, really risen me up. I wouldn't say that. But if the person was maybe my age, I still wouldn't say that. I'm talking like that. And people only talk like that here and that. People don't actually say that in real life.
Let's see. Bingham loves Pacifico. That's from Kevin Nixon.
I like
leaving tomorrow, go see Kenny Chesney at the Spear. Enjoy it. God bless. Tip of the cap. Ryan Bingham is as real as it gets. Rodeo guys always are. Yeah, I'm a big fan. That's the show last year where my wife was screaming, "I love you, Ryan," and it was a total. I was on the Davenport.
Rocky Mountain cucking.
Rocky Mountain cucking. That's exactly what it was. Morrison, Colorado cucking. Is it about the brand, Tim? Why you can't vacation? Is it about the brand, Tim? Why you can't vacation? Is it about the brand, Tim? Question mark. Why you can't vacation? Question mark.
Elton Brand. You could play.
Yeah, I feel like I watched him. Was he on the 2001 Duke team?
Yeah,
I feel like I
think he.
You would be so jealous of the fact that I got to see Missouri play Duke in the NCAA tournament, and that was
a sick team.
Jason Williams, Shane Battier, Mike Dunleavy, Chris Duhon, Elton Brand, Carlos Boozer, and Missouri was only down 3 at Greensboro in the second half. Kareem Rush hit a 3 right in front of me, and I'm going, oh, my God, could this actually happen?
Team was stacked. Elton Brand is the current GM of the 76ers.
How about that? Fun facts, no and tell. What else we got? I don't know what the question means, Adam Welly. I'm happy to answer it. I like your question. I just don't know what you're trying to say. Interesting way to pat yourself on the back. It's a shitty sports show. Take off. It ain't that serious.
Hey.
So I'm patting myself on the back by saying I feel badly about going on vacation.
It's just nice to have.
I think we've had a problem with this guy before.
Have we?
So it's kind of like, okay, this guy's obviously one of the problem ones. But I feel like somehow Hazelhood 19.
No.
What is...
I don't know. It's tough with YouTube
because 2 hours into a podcast and you sit and hate watch the podcast pops up. I don't even know when we're going to do it. Because I said to you, like in a break today, I said, how do you feel about QFTA today? If you would have said I can't do it, I'd been like, I don't do it.
That's the benefits of having notifications turned on your subscription to the TMA YouTube channel.
Was Hazelhood 19... Jackson just gave a smile and point.
Yeah.
I feel like Hazelhood 19 was the guy who acted like he went to St. Louis U High with me. Remember that one? That was really creepy, and he cited my theology teacher.
I do remember that. I do remember that situation. I don't remember who was the person though.
I don't understand how saying that I'm not comfortable taking vacations, patting myself on the back, but I realize we're dealing with one of our, basically the people that some of you were referencing earlier on in the YouTube chat. When Tim goes on vacation, our family goes into a state of mourning. It's maybe 2020. When he comes back, it's pure jubilation. Tim should pat himself on the back every single day. You obviously earned the vacation. Take it. That's from Hazelhood 19. I've tried to call in before. Definitely not me. Okay. Hazelhood 19, call in to TMA? Okay, then if I was wrong, and it looks like I am, then I apologize. But there was somebody in the YouTube chat one day who implied that they sat with me in theology at St. Louis U High. I believe Mr. Wayner's class, and you've met Mr. Wayner, and you agree that he is the greatest person to ever walk the face of the earth.
It's the best soundster I ever got to sit in person for. It was truly awesome.
He's a superhuman.
And by the way, just a brief...
this whole show is, by the way...
The interview, not because of anything we did necessarily, but Wayno last week was one of my favorite interviews we had with an athlete.
That's wonderful you said that, because one of the emails that I had ready to go, and then as per usual, I never read on this podcast, was about, and I guess it's probably in the QFTA file, but I just got it this morning, so maybe not, was about the Wainwright interview. The Wainwright interview, and I realize, the people listening to this, I don't know how many, 50% maybe heard it on TMA, is what even if I'm in my 70s and doing this just kind of like on the set, that's the kind of stuff that I love. When but Wainwright is this way, and I knew it going, anybody knows it, I guess, who does this going in, that he's kind of like up for talking about anything and will speak honestly, and he kind of did that, he did do that when he was a player, but you had to get him, not that he was moody at all, but sometimes he was in the mood to talk, and sometimes he wasn't. And if you got him when he was in the mood to talk, greatest interview, because it's thoughtful. One of the things that I feel like, in Joe Strauss, and obviously I love Joe Strauss, I named Balloon Party after one of his sayings, I just disagree with him on this. He's like, Wainwright just loves attention. I've heard other people say it. I'm like, I don't think that's it at all. That's just not it. I don't think so. But people I respect, Strauss and others who I respect, say that. And I'm like, God, I just think I think it's who he is.
Yeah.
And he's just a wonderful, wonderful person. I can't say enough good things about him. But sometimes people you can't say enough good things about aren't great interviews. He also happens to be a great interview. Yeah. And those are the kinds of kind of like Holiday yesterday.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Like you're sitting there and you're comfortable asking a question, and then the guest is comfortable answering the question, and then it becomes like the best conversations in my life. And I know some people have whether it be because of alcoholism in their family or their own issues with alcohol or drugs or whatever the case might be. But for me, is just sitting around bullshitting at a bar, sitting around over drinks, It's my favorite thing, is just sitting around and bullshitting. And that is why I guess I love doing sound stories, because I'm learning things from people I've just met and asking questions, and they're obviously there to tell their story.
Right.
But rarely do you get that with athletes, especially high-profile athletes, because most of the time, understandably so, similar to what I was talking about with Rory McIlroy's soundbite, they're either protecting something that they can't say publicly, or they're protecting what they feel like is the privacy of somebody else, like McIlroy was with Scheffler. And so it's always almost kind of like a dance. It's like, okay, am I going to go there?
Right. Or it's team sport, and they don't ever want to be viewed as the person who's speaking out of school,
Yes. Yeah. Yes, you're sorry. So may have told the story before, may not have. I got to know Marcus Allen when he lived in St. Louis, still one of the strangest fucking things that was going on, but he lived here for a couple of years. At this point, he's been gone, I think, 4 or 5 years. And I would play golf with him every once in a while. Anytime I would tell the little story about Keith Kachuk yelling at us when we were playing, and Kachuk didn't know Marcus Allen was in the group. He goes, "Oh, you name-dropping dirtbag." I'm like, well, he was there, and you're yelling at our group about pace of play. And Marcus Allen goes, who the fuck's that guy? But it really did happen.
Yeah.
And then I got to introduce Keith Kachuk, a guy who should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, with one of the greatest athletes to ever play in the NFL, because he was a sick baseball player, too. But anyway, we played a few times. And went to lunch, and he was doing the podcast, which is on the Tim McKernan Show podcast feed. And I'm like, do I go OJ? Do I ask about OJ? And it becomes this, as the interviewer, this kind of, because once you go there, you can't go back.
You can't put that cat back in the bag.
And it's going really well. Yeah. To give you another example, Mike Bush, early years of this podcast. It was a great interview. There's so many of these things I fucking love. I wish like hell, man, we had what we have now in 2025 when I started the podcast, which is the video, to have those on YouTube.
Right.
Holy shit. Which again, that's not about me. That's about John Seymour, who booked the guests. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, one of the things I know people want to hear Mike Bush talk about is his relationship with Bob Richards. Are you aware of that? You probably, that predates you, but he was a weatherman on Channel 5, and they would do these sports and weather joke commercials, and Bob Richards killed himself by crashing his plane.
Holy shit.
He took off from Spirit Airport and crashed his plane. And I would imagine, as you can imagine, it devastated Mike Bush.
Yeah.
And, we're having a wonderful conversation, but I'm like, do I go there? And then at some point there was something, I'm like, okay, I know I now can go there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things. Same thing with Marcus Allen. I'm like, okay, this is going really well, but I go OJ and he don't want to go OJ.
Right, now it's
over. It's over.
Changed.
And we'll be landing the plane real quickly because he's going to be. And I kind of did a follow-up once or twice on Al Davis, so I didn't go OJ.
Yeah.
And I watched Marcus Allen, Marcus Allen could be president, and he just gently swatted it away. I followed up. It was like a poker hand where everybody knew what everybody was doing, and then he swatted it away again. And I'm like, if I can't go Al Davis, I sure as hell can't go OJ.
Yeah, right.
So it's this unspoken language.
Yeah.
And so in these interviews that you're siding with Wainwright and I'm siding with Holiday yesterday, I guess the best way to describe to the audience, because I know this isn't what you do, and if anything, I'm probably envious of what you guys do for a living, in that it's professional, is the feel. It's almost like, some guys who don't really practice, but they grab a putter or a wedge and they can just chip or putt, and you go, or you watch Fred Couples golf swing and you go, Jesus, God in heaven! It's
not quantifiable, but
it's just there, and so it becomes this thing that I can't identify, but I knew it was there with Wainwright, and then I think at the end he goes, "You didn't even ask me the top 25 or whatever was the top 25 of you didn't even cite the pitchers," and I go, "I can go there," and he goes, "No, we've gone." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah,
he let me know, and now I know. I'm grateful for what we got.
Yep.
I'll land. But those are, give me that shit every day. I can't get enough. And the audience is engaged. It's lean in, broadcasting, podcasting, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's the absolute best. So, yeah, this gentleman asked, since this was brought up, he sent this email this morning. Good morning, Tim and Jackson, longtime listener of TMA and QFTA and first-time emailer. I listened to the Wainwright interview yesterday, and he made the comment after a question from Doug about how the organization went to Sonny Gray, Wilson Contreras, and Nolan Arenado about wanting to stay or wanting to leave, and all three wanted to stick it out, so to speak. Well, it's on record that that's not 100% the truth. Tim, do you feel like you left one out there for the taking by not at least not cross-examining part of his answer regarding Arenado not wanting to stay at Cardinal? To your defense, Wainwright did carry on with his answer for some time after making that comment. So wondering if it did cross your mind, and at least to go into more detail about Arenado, but considering the situation of having Wainwright be nice enough to come on the air, you thought otherwise on backing him up in a corner regarding at least the part about Arenado. Love and loyal listener of both TMA and QFTA, and extremely pleased to hear how you guys loved playing Oak Valley. I did really enjoy that course last week. Being a lifelong Festus resident, I've played that course all the way back when it was the Teamsters course. Keep on keeping on. That's from listener Brian. It's a great question. I actually remember that moment in the interview, and Brian's observation, to his credit, is right on target. Had he paused, I would have said, I'm not sure that Arenado, but I don't think Arenado was like dying to leave.
No.
I think he's kind of like, I guess if I can go. I mean, obviously not. He rejected the trade to Houston. If he just wanted to get out of here.
Exercised the no trade clause.
I can't speak to with any even secondhand sourcing on Wilson Contreras and his reasoning. I think there is, and when I say there's something, I don't know what it is, and it makes it sound like it's titillating. It's not. I don't think the Sonny Gray thing was as much about I don't want to leave this team. Right. I think there's more to it. My guess would be the Nashville. It's a 40-minute flight on off days, but I don't know that. So I think in May when they started winning, it kind of became this. And I couldn't help, and I know it's unpleasant because people like being happy, and I understand that, but I don't feel like my job is to make people happy. My job is to tell you what I think or what is going on, and we can't just because the team is winning all of a sudden turn it into, boy, look at what the front office did this offseason.
Retcon. You cannot.
Retcon. Now I understand it. It's been used in context.
You can't retcon the season.
Can't.
No.
I want them to win. Right. But that was not the goal of this team. I mean, the president of baseball operations said, literally, priority 1, 2, and 3 is to trade Nolan Arenado.
Yep.
We can't, reverse engineer that and turn this into like I do. I realize this one is, I always talk about the Wade LeBlanc, John Lester, and I feel like there was another guy. Jay Happ. And it became, boy, this Cardinal front office. I'm like, but that's not what they were doing. Yeah. We can't do this. I know it's going to make me unpopular because right now everybody's caught up in their winning. But they were going, oh, fuck, we're burning out our young arms. We just need guys who are getting ready to retire to throw innings to get us to the end of the season.
I remember
that's what really happened.
Yeah, I remember you and I were at
You're so negative. Fuck off. It's the truth.
You and I were at KFNS. I remember when this was happening, and we pulled up MLB Network, and all these people on the panel, and we were like, what are the Cardinals? What the hell are the Cardinals do? John Lester and Jay, like 2015 called. They want their pitching back.
You know what? My autobiography is titled, Fuck Off, It's the Truth. Has anybody used that title before?
Yeah, I think it's Oprah's book of the month is Fuck Off.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Who would be the funniest person? Like Carrot Top, who would be the funniest person?
Random guy with a random show in St. Louis has the title.
Funniest person to have that as the title of their memoir.
Hazelhood 19 is that Josh clown in the pale bashing fan pin post.
Nah.
I did see somebody pointed out that guy posts about you.
Yeah. That's what
It seems like Hazelhood 19 is not the guy, and I'd like to apologize to Hazelhood 19. You can title the title of this podcast is
Hi Ho, I'm on my Sibian, and I don't feel like changing it.
I don't blame you. Love Wayno, and yes, that was a great interview. Keep it up, boys. That's Adam Welly. Would you ever consider doing a TMM podcast interview with Franco Pinion? I did.
Yeah.
It was. That's the thing. It's like now I get when La Russa gets asked about favorite players, I go, God, yeah, that was one of my favorites too. He's so good. Mm-hmm. Like from each one, I can pick a thing. Franco Pinion strikes me is just like you clearly know, and he might say the same thing I sometimes say about my memory. Like I don't think it's healthy. Like I don't think this is like a good thing. I think it's like a weird thing. Franco Pinion is just so fucking talented in this arena, and he's so talented. And so I don't even know what the right word. I'd be curious, like what he would think about his process and ability. That he is going to clash with management because he knows he has a following. He knows he can get what he can get for advertising, and he's just not interested in doing like the "I'll use my hand on you, use your hand on me" relationship thing. Like I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and it's going to work. And if you want me, you want me. And I realize, at this point, he's not doing anything. But I mean, he's also made a lot of money, and
he's got the juice.
He absolutely does. But taking that out of the equation, which was what I admired from afar, and became kind of the TMA model to an extent. Truly, when I had the decision to make, do I take this thing in house? In 2010 and sell it ourselves, I was thinking of Franco Pinion, somebody I had never met, and I'm virtually certain I had to tell him. I certainly told him that on the phone, if not in the podcast. But there's the business acumen, and then there's his talent. And his talent, at least locally, I don't know if I don't know even who would be in second place. And I say that obviously not as a shot. It's his ability to tell a story. Yeah, I just think he's. And it's not like that's a show that I listen to, nor would he expect me to. I mean, I would be in the younger demographic for that. But I recognize when he would come on and tell stories, he can go. I mean, that's a guy that had he wanted to, could have gone and done some kind of network thing. And I mean, he's in another world. I can't say enough good things about his ability. You guys need to do a podcast with Vitali. Well, I've done one with him, but I haven't done one since. That's a guy. I can't tell you how big of a fan I am of Joey Vitale.
Joey V.
I mean,
as good as it gets.
It is so great that, assuming neither one of us move, that my 3-year-old is going to be in class with his 3-year-old. Yeah. That class is just full of like a bunch of parents we know. It's just going to be. That's great. I'm so looking forward to that, which is such a weird thing to say, but that it's because I like and respect and I'm amused by that guy. He's just
awesome. He's genuine as fuck.
He is. That's exactly right. Let's see. Oh yeah, you guys can use your potty mouths here. Clean it up with Orbit. I don't know what that means. Is that a reference to the gum?
I guess. I have to request. I have to pee. So.
Ron Robbins says wrong. I noticed you were I noticed it. And you were happy that I was landing the plane, and then I got going on something.
I said the thing about the Wayno interview, and I stand by that.
Yes, it's fine. How long have we gone now? Hour and 40 minutes. Hour and 50 minutes.
2 hours.
2 hours.
It was a good pod.
Yeah, good pod.
Hi-ho.
Hi-ho.
I'm on the
Hi-ho
Sibian.
Silver, I'm on my Sibian.
Hi-ho Silver.
Hi-ho Silver, I'm on my Sibian.
And that's the thing. Someone's going to turn this up, be like, what is it? And then they're, where's the Sibian talk?
Here's the thing. When you have a car made in the last couple of years, it shows it on the display.
Yes.
So you're driving along.
Yeah, it's tough.
And so I was like on that podcast I recommend, what the fuck is it called? Pillow Talk. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Nicolette Shea's getting back into the industry. I used to play poker with her. And now she's like, I mean, she's like the stereotypical porn star. You know, she's probably towers over me, blonde, you know, has the whole thing going on.
Right.
But the title of the podcast is, I'm like, oh, Nicolette Shea's coming back. I used to play poker with her. This will be interesting. I haven't heard from her in a while. The title of the podcast is Nicolette Shea Sucks Brandy Loves Toes on Pod. And so my wife gets in the car. And she's got to be like, what are you, like, driving along with one hand on the wheel and one hand on your love? So maybe Hi-Ho Silver, I'm Riding My Sybian isn't a great title. No. I don't know. But I think it is. I feel great about it.
The reason, and obviously it's just because we're goofballs, but like a lot of the reason like podcast titles or YouTube titles are like that is to like just be intentionally grabby, you know, like you won't believe what happened on this episode. And it's like,
I do notice there's business, there's like industries for thumbnail guys.
I know, God, I wish I should have gotten on the ground floor of that. I can cook
you can
up a
thumbnail?
I can cook up a thumbnail.
Jackson needs to piss. We need to go. It's the Tim McKernan Show podcast. Thank you to James Carlton, the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency. Thank you to Mark Hanna, Evergreen Wealth Strategies, evergreenstl.com. And thank you to Seth Goldcamp, Design Air Heating and Cooling, DesignAirService.com. As Splashback Deuce just said, Hi-Ho Sybian. That's right, Jackson.
Hi-Ho Silver. I'm on the Sybian.
There you go. Time for us to go. Thank you for listening to the Tim McKernan Show podcast.